Jainism is an ancient Indian religion dating back to prehistoric times before 3000 BC. It originated from the Tirthankars or Four Makers, who were the enlightened beings who laid out the principles for this tradition. Its primary goal is to reach liberation through the path of Ahimsa or nonviolence. Today, Jains represent the 0.4% of the Indian population of over a billion people. However, in spite of being a relatively small religious community, Jains have successfully sustained this long-standing religion to the present day and have influenced and contributed to ethical, political, and economical areas in India. An example of their success is the fact that Jains hold the most literate religion in India and the world, with 94% of its members, both men and women, educated with at least a high school degree. Jains also have the highest work participation rate, with 55% of its members employed, as opposed to the national rate of 39%. So what makes them different? What sets them apart? They say it is their discipline and their ethics. And the ethics of Jains have been known to be rigorous. So how applicable are these ethics, and how much they impact the success of Jains? Jains living in America get together to discuss about this matter.
The most important thing in Jainism is we have a trilogy, and which is very unique to Jain system of thinking. What it says is everything starts with a wholesome thought, wholesome perspective, and which together leads to wholesome action. How do you build wholesome thoughts, wholesome perspective, and wholesome action?
But in Jain, non-violence encompasses non-violence to the environment. According to Jain belief, even tree, fire, earth, they all have consciousness. So you should not be unnecessarily violent with them. You should exploit them to the extent that you need to carry on your everyday life, but don't go out of your way to destroy them.
He believes in Ahimsa and let leave others too, and our employee knows, because since we are becoming a strong vegetarian, they know, and we sometimes discuss about that. And if suppose some lizards or something, if I see any bugs and all, and I'll tell the employee, don't kill it, just take it away and put it on the side, rather than killing, and they knows that Mrs. Shah won't like it.
Violence also extends to not only actions but also to thoughts and words. So as a business person, we all understand how to treat a customer courteously, not use violent words or go like off on him or something.
So when you're doing surgery on a patient, you want to make sure that you minimize any pain that the patient experiences, and yet you are able to heal the patient. So the point here is that there are times you have to, not that you need to, but you have to do things that are for a greater good. It is no different from an example when somebody wants to know, would you lie if you would save a life? Sure, I would lie. That's a sin, but if it saved a life, I would lie. And it is no different from that when you're talking about violence inflicted on bacteria or a patient or so for the greater good of saving life.
Such is the importance of Ahimsa that between business and religion, their faith almost always prevails.
Hotel, and one of the hotels we had restaurant and we had to cater non-vegetarian food.
Bhavna Shah is a successful woman that owns a family business that designs and manufactures ladies' apparel without any silk or leather. They have 325 stores around the country called Simply Fashion. But before this business, the Shahs owned a 5-star hotel that they decided to sell because the restaurant had to cater meat.
So in fact, my husband closed down the restaurant. It was 5-star hotel. and he closed down that restaurant particularly, and eventually we sold it. So.
There's certain type of businesses where Jains probably would not like to get involved, and most of the other ones probably they would like to get involved. And I think it's kind of interesting that Jains are a lot more exposed to services, whether it's media, financial service, and those things, because obviously it kind of historically fulfill the principles of non-violence much better than some of the other professions would have.
Jainism considers entire existence and all sorts of human activity as interdependent. Everything we do, think, or say affects not only us, but people who are connected with us. And we as business people know that everything, all economic activity is very much interconnected. Now more so
Jains
than
are
ever
very
before,
selective with their jobs because they understand that Ahimsa also enforces the concept of interdependence, where every thought, word, or action affects everyone and everything.
Two, we believe in the equality of all souls, and I think that's a very, very large, important universal principle. And based on that, we also, consider, therefore, respecting and being tolerant of other viewpoints. And arising from that, additionally, is the fact that we are committed to empowering women. Women essentially form the center of society and the family unit, and ensuring that they're literate and independent, both as thinkers and socially enabled, progressive individuals. We have to ensure literacy.
I think that all of this spiritual upbringing just helps you to relate to other human beings in many positive ways, and you try to connect yourself with that oneness rather than seeing the different layers of the face and name and form and shape and color and size. But you go beyond that. And to me, my spiritual upbringing really helps me to understand even my artistic student, to my educable mentally handicapped student, or my learning disabled students.
If you would have understood that an employee is equally important, a customer is equally important for my business, my supplier is equally important for my business, government is equally important in my business, I am important, my stockholders are important, environment is important.
Now, in Jain non-violence, Jains are all, the non-violence is so much a part of the Jain creed that Jains are vegetarian. They don't feel like killing an animal just to eat.
Lots of time my friends always tells me, how can you survive without eating meat, because there is no protein, there is no more calories, or the food is not as supposed to be satisfactory according to the requirement of the nutritional requirement. And I always argue with them, and I think most of the time it is getting more effective. I say first of all, we don't need too much food to eat to survive ourselves. And second, being a vegetarian, we don't have a problem of, the high cholesterol. We don't have a problem of the, other diseases too,
Being a vegetarian is and I think it's appreciated more now than ever before, is the fact that, the world would be healthier if they were more vegetarians. In other words, vegetarianism is actually good for you. Number two is that the world would not be able to feed itself if it doesn't become vegetarian. So if you look at, for example, it takes for almost 7 pounds of wheat to produce 1 pound of chicken.
The more I am looking into the major problems that's facing our earth, the more I am getting convinced that vegetarianism is one of the major, it can provide the solutions to our major problems. For example, right now in the modern world, two major problems are availability of water and global warming. Let's look at global warming. In Australia, the total amount of methane ejected by the cows what we politely call as bovine flatulence, is about 3 million tons. 3 million tons of methane gas equals 186 million tons of carbon dioxide. That's about 18% of all the carbon dioxide that's ejected in the atmosphere. That's almost as much greenhouse warming that's done by all the automobiles concerned. If we just stop killing beef, if we just stop eating beef, or if we just become vegetarian, that will solve the global warming almost immediately. All we have to do is to just change our lifestyle, move to a healthier lifestyle, if I may say so.
It's a transition, and I still keep part of my culture.
Adriana Scandan, a neurologist native from Colombia, is making the transition to vegetarianism since she married Samal, Geeta Shah's son.
My favorite plate would be chana masala, so the garbanzo beans, and it's very simple. But a lot of vegetarian food that Jains eat is very good, but it's also very simple, and I think it has that relationship with their religion. Very kind of simple beliefs. That's their food too, and I like it.
Jainism is a religion that I think, according to emphasizes that truth is relative. Everybody else says, what is the absolute truth? Tell me the truth. But Jainism is one religion that says that truth has many dimensions, many perspectives, depending on from what angle you're looking at. Something can be true from your point of view, and the same person looking at it in a different point of view may find it untrue. And everybody just one touches the tail, one touches the trunk, and figures out elephant is this or elephant is that. They are true in their own way, but in a whole, total perspective, they are neither true nor false.
Look at the principle of Anekant. I think it's incredibly helpful, because I think one of the things what you see all the time is people kind of get hung up on their own views. And what that does is that basically shuts them off from accepting what the other views are, because there's no real one single truth as such. And I think that's incredibly important, because there's nothing which is always correct. It depends on the environment, time horizon, and so on and so forth. So what is true today may not be true tomorrow.
Truthfulness, business decisions and actions need to be taken based on real data and real information, and being truthful about the information one gathers and making plans is a key aspect and a basis for it.
One of the basic tenets of Jain teaching is Anekant, which means plurality of truth, which is very good in scientific research, how we tear away at each other's hypothesis. But Jain teaching tells us that all three of us are right. So firstly, it makes me respectful of my colleagues' findings, and second thing, their realization that all of them can be right can also helps us to integrate all the different viewpoints in a more wholesome hypothesis.
Three biggest problems that I can see today in the world are related to extremism, which is creating violence all over the world. Now that's something that can be helped by the principle of Anekant or multiplicity of viewpoints, because fights occur when you cannot see the other person or other side's viewpoint.
And therefore it is very easy for the Jains to see the similarities with other religions.
This concept of plurality has made Jainism a very tolerant religion toward other religions and cultures.
Jainism doesn't really concentrate on an individual's classification of what religion I am trying to follow, but so long as you are following good practices of humankind, I think I would consider you a Jain.
When Geeta Shah was told by her son Somal that he wanted to marry a woman who wasn't Jain or Indian, she was open to the idea.
He likes the girl which is Colombia and from the Colombia, but she is a very nice girl, and mom, I like to meet you, and in the beginning, it was a cultural shock for me. So we decided to have a conversation, and I explained to her that, what we are, what is the Indian cultures, what is a Jainism.
Meeting his family, it has been great, and they're wonderful people, and getting to know
What we believe, and believe it or not, but she read a Jainism book, and she studied a little bit. She liked the principles, and she respect us also same way.
I married Somo during my training, and with that came learning a lot about his religion, Jainism. The main thing that has changed my life when it comes to his religion is coming to learn about a religion that makes people accountable for what they do, and it has more of a sense of responsibility, because it's not like Catholicism where you can go and confess your sins and somehow you're forgiven.
We had a long, big discussion before we decided both the families to be, to be involved into the, marriage. His father says, Gita, you have to think that world is big and we are like a soup. We families should meet each other like a soup, and blend together, so you cannot distinguish what are the ingredients in the soup.
Non-attachment to things relates also to greed. Absolute greediness in business is what caused our disaster 2 years ago.
Look at America. It's the most advanced country in the whole world. America represents 4% of world's population, but produces 50% of world's toxic wastes. So if Americans are responsible, if there's a responsible consumption, we really can cut down on a huge amount of toxic waste that's invading our world. Look at something like car ownership. The car ownership in US has gone up 6 times faster than the population increase.
I'm only going to have limited possession. At the end of the day, I just need so much to eat and so much to drink and so much to live. Rest should be plowed back or given back to the society. You must have seen Warren Buffett's example and all these people, even though they were not born Jains.
A lot of people going hungry, poverty leading to violence. That can be helped by the principle of Aparigraha or non-possessiveness. Why should one have to hold all the resources while other person, especially a child, does not have enough to eat?
Not getting emotionally attached to your decisions, and I think that aspect is also can really help one take decisions, because the more you're emotionally attached to decisions, the more irrational chance that you will become.
When we get successful, we always believe in donations too. That we got the money by the community, and we need to give back to the community also.